so we're going to come into a routine that we're going to specifically use for the hips. We can use the swing at the front of the body, so pushing the swing straight with our arms. I'm up on my tippy toes to get the swing to hit the leg. So not the belly, not the bladder. Bladder will tell you immediately, but all the way down where the leg inserts into the pelvis. So we're right at the hip crease. So if we marched, it's right where we bend. And then we're going to come into a forward fold, and then we're going to be kind of close here. This is our kissy yoga. And then we're going to let ourselves come into a plank. Now immediately we're going to feel the pressure on the hip flexors, and we're at the front of the mat here. You can slide your mat back just slightly. Yeah, maybe. Perfect. Okay, cool. We have our little spots. Okay, good. Good. Legs are going to be level with the earth, so bring your legs down, honey. Level. There you go. See the difference? Perfect. Okay, good. And your head's going to be a little bit on the outside, and I'm going to be on the inside. Great. So from here, if we drop down onto our forearms, we're going to feel this amazing stretch immediately of tractioning. Gravity is pulling me down, but the swing is pulling me up. So I'm immediately creating space in the hip flexors. It just feels incredible already. We haven't even done anything. So we shake it out. We let the swing completely hold us. So there's going to be some more advanced moves, but this whole practice is really for beginners. Now in this position, I'm just going to show you, you can immediately come into a headstand with support by interlacing the fingers, and then bending your knees and bringing the crown of the head towards the floor. It's a simple supported headstand, so not fully stacked, but more hanging. So if I pull my knees into my chest, my head comes up. If I bring my knees up, my head comes down, so I can really decide exactly how much weight I want to have in the upper body. So I'm going to extend my legs. We're going to come into focusing on the hips, but I just wanted to show you from there. It's a great way to do our headstand. Okay. So what I want to do is bring, let's go ahead and we'll have you bring your right, my left foot down. Right foot down. Your right, my left up. And then we can see we can come into a one-legged dog here. Okay, so from a one-legged dog, I'm lifting and creating space in the hip flexor, and then I'm going to bend the knee and hook the foot on the outside. Bend the knee, hook the foot on the outside. Beautiful. Pressing back, I start to stretch and open up the legs. This is a really intense stretch for the hamstring, so I call it a cat's meow. I'm going to inhale and pull forward and arch and come out of it. Start to stretch the belly, open up the belly. I'm going to exhale and press back and round in. So give the legs some time to warm up. Inhale, pull forward, arch and open. Meow. Exhale, press back. Okay, and so then that foot that was hooked, I can actually bring around. So I'm going to bring it up and around, up and around. So then I'm only hooked on one side. Okay, so now the inside of the right leg is catching the swing. Okay, so from there I'm going to float. I'm going to float into a plank pose, a half plank. Okay, and I'm stacking. So all of my weight is actually on the inner thigh of the right leg right now. That's amazing. So it's cutting into that inner groin, that place where it's really hard to get some deep tissue massage without feeling very intimate. So if I bring my left foot down, it takes weight off of the inner groin. So it might be too much to float at first. It should feel intense. I'm going to roll down and bring my forearm down, my right forearm down. So now I'm digging into the front of the hip flexor. And then I'm going to try and kick. This is where we get a little bit more advanced. We're going to try and kick the left leg up. And when I kick up, I'm putting more pressure on the outside. So I'm rotating throughout the whole hip. Okay, and then back through center. Back through center. So a little ollie. So a little bit more advanced move at the end so you can just stick with the plank, the floating half plank. So let's try again from here. Bending our elbows. We're going to come back through the whole sequence. Come into our floating leaf. We just fold in. Let that feel good. So just tractioning by allowing the toes to float down and then bringing the toes back up. That'll be amazing for massaging out the tightness in the hip flexor. So we're trying to work the hips in the full range, the 360 degrees that Lori was talking about. Let's go ahead and bring the left foot down, right foot comes up. Okay. So from here, I just lift and then bend my knee to kick the leg loop out of the way and hook the toes outside in. So my one-legged dog, I inhale, cat's meow. Exhale, press back. When we press back, we're stretching the legs. We're starting to open up the legs. Again, the full range. Inhale, come forward. Exhale, back. Inhale, forward. Okay, great. Then I can let the leg come up and out. Okay, so now I'm going to come into my half plank. So this is really intense here, but feels really good for anybody who's been having joint pain.
And I have to say, it transformed from being really intense to be like my body craved. I did it like every day before the surgery.
Yeah.
It was so soothing.
So, thank you, Lori. So one version is to put the foot on the ground, so you're adjusting how much weight bearing is on the inner thigh. Because even me, who does this every day, there's stickiness in there. So you can try kind of bringing the knee down too. You can kind of get a little bit more push on the shin. Okay. So then I'm going to roll back towards center, left forearm down. It's called like a kickstand, so I can kick the other leg up and then roll towards the hip flexor and TFL. And I'm putting pressure on the outside of the hip, adjusting it with my own weight. Okay, so the weight of my body is deciding how much intensity is there. And then the leg comes back through center. So that's just a few poses. We're not going to give you a whole thing, but just a few poses that you can do. And you know, if you don't want to do all of that crazy kicking, you can just bring one leg out. Make it real simple. Just watch your private parts. Don't pinch anything. Get it into a sweet spot. There is a sweet spot. You know, just kind of work it from the ground and then switch sides. So just get the swing around one leg and work it a little bit. If all that seemed like a little too much, just kind of dig in there. Play with it. That's why I do call it aerial yoga play. It's pretty amazing of what you can do. And so from where I'm gonna let you take over and show me what you did to assist in the rehabbing of your hip replacement, and just add in, if there's anything you can think of, add in from here of what you like to do each day.
So, immediately after post-surgery, you have an incision, so you can't actually do that move right away. So, again, for me, just doing the very simple things. Standing with support, you're supposed to weight bear as much as you can tolerate for your rehab. And of course, it just made me able to be on my legs and do more. So this is what I just kind of did in the beginning. I just did supported like pelvic lifts because your glutes kind of go to sleep from everything. And so I would just do more gentle pelvic lifts, and eventually going into full weight bearing. And then the surgery is traumatic in a way, so just to have the support under the heart and breathe sounds really simple, but it's very effective. Sometimes less is more.
Yeah, we call this sumo squat in our practice, in our aerial yoga play practice. So a sumo squat is tractioning the spine out of the pelvis to create space in between the vertebrae, so you feel this nice lifting and lengthening through the entire torso, where we're letting the sternum rise by engaging the arms, but the hips are completely relaxed. And so we're letting our pelvis hang. So even this motion where we gently let ourselves rock from side to side is incredible. So we don't have to do anything crazy or go upside down. If that's uncomfortable for us at first, we can just let ourselves hang. And it's intense on the underarms, so any sort of lifting of the hips and leaning back, which is also incredible for opening up the heart and rearranging the posture, will take pressure and relieve that hanging position from the underarms, and then we can just come back in. So we're always working the upper and lower bodies together because the spine is one long line and one unit that needs to be supported from both ends. But usually the pain or the injury will show up in one area versus another. So I have my neck and shoulder clients and I have my lower back clients. Some people are really lucky and have both, but it's usually one or the other. So this simple rocking from side to side is a nice way to start post-surgery or post the injury. Same with knees, because there can be some strengthening, like Lori was talking about, of the glutes and the hamstrings and the quads. Sometimes even holding on here and doing some lifts is really nice to do partial weight bearing.
Yeah, which was the thing I was going to say next, just to work my arms and hang, because my arms were fine. They didn't get cut off. And really just to have the swings to support me in whatever I came up with. I didn't do specific things for a while. It was just like, I need to be in the swing. And again, the contact of the swing supporting the body just reminded me to breathe. Very simple, but so nurturing and so healing. So it took, I think, maybe 2.5 weeks before I could lift my surgical side into relaxin.
Yeah, so 1 or 2 weeks in, after just being in the swing, you can also get into the swing, which is just nice to feel loved and supported, which we will do a whole video on our YOGASSAGE, with just cocooning. Could you lift your legs and come up into Viparita? Was that too much after surgery? Like, did it take a while to get to Viparita?
I didn't. Probably it wouldn't have.
Okay.
No, I just didn't do that much of that.
So,
I was sleeping like all day long.
Yeah, so the leg loops are an option, or you can actually extend the legs up towards the sky, which is really good for draining any swelling, particularly for knee injuries. If I have any swelling in my ankles and any of the joints, you can raise the legs above the heart to help drain any sort of inflammation.
But, I'm just thinking
this
now.
is totally not planned, by the way. You can tell. We're impromptu.
Off the cuff.
Right.
She has no idea what I was doing.
I know. I'm curious.
I think I was able to get into this pretty quickly, which is full inversion, so maybe like intermediate. I don't know what you would call this.
Yeah, we learned that in the intermediate practice, or full inversion. So you can hang upright. So actually, Lori and I are doing exactly the same thing for the body. We're using gravity to stretch the spine by creating more space in between the vertebrae. Tractioning the spine out of the pelvis is going to create relief for any sort of disc issue, any sort of congestion, any sort of pain. So you can do this in an upright position, or you can do this upside down. Okay, the swing at the waist will actually kind of wring out the quadratus and the love handles. We'll call them, everybody knows the love handles. So it's really great, particularly for lower back, SI joint, lumbar. And then this is really great for neck and shoulders, actually, even though it's uncomfortable for people at first.
I think also for me, fear kind of pools in my hips and my belly.
Sure.
And so the act of going upside down is soothing for me. Certainly it's not soothing for everybody right away, but it can be an acquired.
Well, let's show them how to do this from the beginner pose chilaxin, which we're going into, and then we're going to start to wrap it up. So from our chilaxin pose, which is with the leg loops behind the back of the knees, this for me is just amazing. So there's kidney points at the back of the knees that are particular for healing lower back and knee pain. So hanging with this pressure here is like my favorite. It helps a lot. So I work the lower back and knees together. Today we're focusing on the hips and the hip joints, but we'll get into that. And if we wanted to go upside down from here, from a supported position, we're going to push our hips up towards the sky. Let us come into a supported back bend first. So the hands are holding on and sliding down, And then when I shift, I want to get the swing right across the hip crease, which feels really good at the iliac crest. And then I can bring my legs wide and around and hook them in front. And when they're hooked in front, I'm fully supported. My feet are relaxed. And my whole belly is open. My head doesn't have to touch. So I can float, I can bring the swing up or down, and then my arms are relaxed. So the whole side body starts to open up. And this just feels good when I see it, let alone it just feels incredible. So we are wrapping our legs and hooking our legs so our knees are splayed open, and this in itself is starting to open up the groin and the hip flexors and all of that connective tissue that runs along the pathway of the psoas. And it is incredibly peaceful. This pose is called Peaceful Warrior. So once you get over any sort of discomfort of hanging upside down, it's soothing for the nervous system and really wonderful for balancing brain chemistry. Then when we're ready to come out, we reach up, we grab for the swing between our legs. We bring our legs wide and around so the leg loops stay on if possible. So when we come to sit, we land right back in our chilaxin pose and we feel supported to integrate and assimilate that information. That's a lot of information for the body. A lot of healing is going to happen, and we want to take our time in between the poses. So just hanging like this, deepening in the hip crease, opening up the heart, supporting the head. This is a wonderful way, one of our restorative sequences for really healing both the upper and lower bodies. I think that's plenty. Thank you so much, Lori, for sharing and showing us what you were doing to help rehab the swing and the hips. So feel free to stay in chilaxin and shut this down. I hope that was really helpful. And then look for the YOGASSAGE routines for both chilaxin and cocoon to continue with some of the practices.